Alright, today I'm working on a 2002 Ford Explorer. It's the 4.0 four-wheel drive XLT basic Explorer. And what I'm going to attempt to do today is install that 22-inch light bar behind the grill. I have not seen any real videos on how to do this, so I'm going to attempt to try and do it. I've seen them down there in down the bottom part of the grill. I don't really want it down there. There's not anything really solid to mount to. Plus I like the light bar being hidden, so I'm going to attempt to mount it so it is behind the grill, right in there. The grill is real easy to take off, and it's got the 4 little press-on clips there. Just pull those out, and then behind that you have this air dam. Same thing. It's got these press-on clips. Take those out, and really the only modification I think I'm going to have to make is to this support bracket right here, and then I believe I can mount it to the metal part of the bumper. So that's what I'm going to attempt to do. I'm going to modify this bracket here to make room for the light bar. See how that goes. Okay, so what I've done so far is I cut this center brace, which I thought was metal, but it's actually plastic. So that went right there like that to support that. So there's not a lot of flex there. I may put some type of support in there to just make that a little more rigid, but needed to make room for the light bar to fit right along in here. I may have to trim this bracket here too, which I'm not quite sure how I'm going to do that yet, but I'll figure it out and show you what I did. Okay, so I want to give you kind of a visual reference of what we're trying to do here. That's where I want to get the light bar to mount to, and looks like I've got maybe enough clearance there. I might have to trim that up a little bit towards the smaller hole. And as you can see, it is binding up on that back bracket. So I'm going to start trimming that up a little bit until I get the light bar in there. See what happens. Alright, so here's where we're at. Ended up cutting this vertical bracket to just below the small hole, since all that does is support this air dam, and that keeper right there just goes into that small hole. And I ended up cutting this back bracket a little bit farther than I intended to, but really all that does is help support this vertical bracket. So since this was cut anyway, this really serves no purpose. So I just cut enough back to make room for the light bar to fit in there without rubbing or having to force anything. What we've ended up with is plenty of room to get the light bar far enough back to where the clips for the grill will seat behind that lip, and we'll end up drilling some holes or self-tapping screws into the metal part of the bumper down there with some spacers, and it should work just fine. So that's where we're at so far. Okay, so here's a little update of where we're at. I went ahead and notched out that air dam bracket to accept the light bar, and kind of lucked out. This 22-inch night bar, I can get it in there with one hand, actually is going to fit perfectly between the air dam. I'll show you what I mean. It lines up just inside of that air dam housing. Can't see with the cable in the way, but it looks like the actual light bar itself is going to squeeze right in perfectly in between that air dam. So now I just got to figure out how to mount it down to the bumper, and turns out this is not metal like I thought it was. It looks like it's some type of fiberglass or type of hard plastic. So we're going to figure what that is and how to mount the light bar, and then it should be good to go. Just wire it up. Alright, here's where we're at. So what I figured out is I need about a 1-inch spacer to lift the foot of the light bar bracket up enough to clear the bottom of the grill, so I got a little bit of articulation on that light bar so I can adjust it. So I may have to raise it up just a little more, put a little bit more of a spacer under there just so I can aim that down without it hitting right there on the grill fascia. But if I push it back just a little more, I may be able to clear this section right here on either side, so that it'll tilt down behind that. So I'll show you the brackets that I've got going here. What I've done is just cut a piece of 1-inch square box tubing, drill some holes in it, and use some self-tapping screws to mount down into this hard plastic there. And that's pretty solid, so I'm going to get it all mounted up. And then of course I'll pull it back apart, paint it with some rust-proof paint, and detail it up a little bit. But that's where we're at so far, so check back when I get a little farther with the install. Okay, let me show you guys where we're at. I'll show you these brackets that I made, or a spacer really. It's just a 1-inch piece of square tubing, drilled a hole in the top, these right here for anchoring right down there into the bumper, which again is not metal. And then this screw here is going to be the screw hole to mount the light bar bracket into. This one over here I've already got anchored. You can see the screws down through there. So I'll show you a shot of that once I get it mounted up. Alright, so with most fabrication, I had to modify my bracketry and change my plan just a little bit. So here's an update. I went ahead and cut that plastic shroud type thing pretty much flat right below this fastener there, because the light bar wasn't able to articulate and give me enough articulation to be able to raise and lower it without binding up on that. So I cut that. I modified this bracket down here as well. But this thing being some type of pressed plastic or fiberboard or something. I don't know exactly what it is, but it's not metal. I decided to go ahead and drill a 1/4 inch hole all the way through both sides of this. This is like a channel right there, and I'm going to run a 1/4 inch 3-inch bolt all the way through, and then put a nut on the bottom side to make it a lot more rigid. I found that the self-tapping screws that I was using originally, as soon as I put any type of torque on it, it just stripped that hole out right there. So went ahead and welded a little piece of flat strap on there. This will give me a mounting anchor so that I can push the light bar back enough to clear the drill. That's the other problem I was having with this bracket here. I couldn't get it far enough back towards the radiator to get the grill up against the mounting points without hitting the front of the light bar. And I went ahead and notched out the top of that square tubing just so I could get easy access to those bolt holes. So I went down to a local hardware store, aka Walmart, and picked up some washers, some fender washers, and some 3-inch, 1/4 inch bolts or screws. And so we're going to try that, see how that goes. So stand by. Alright, so after several modifications to the mounting arrangement and the bracketry, the brackets are installed, the light bar is installed, and as you can see, this nightlight, what they call a 22-inch light bar, fits perfectly between the air dam there on either side. So with that little over inch bracket that I made, there's enough clearance and for articulation to be able to move the light bar up and down. So now all I gotta do is tighten that up, and as you can see, if I can do this one-handed, the grill fits in there perfectly. Light bar's in there, should get pretty decent light coverage out of there, not too much being blocked. It's out of the way, and a pretty clean install. So now I just got to wire it up. Just want to give you guys a quick little tip. If you're looking to do a light bar install, I found this kit at a 99-cent store a couple months back, and picked up a few of these. As you can see, it was $3.99 or 15 to 20 bucks online. And I use this exact wiring kit to install actually a heater into UTV, and it worked out really good. As you can see, it comes with switch and relays, 9 foot of wiring harness, and you can actually hook up 2 separate items to this kit. So just something to be mindful of. If you got a 99-cent store around you, you might be able to pick up a wiring harness pretty cheap. Alright guys, so the install is all done. Thought I'd give you a little demonstration of what the difference is with the light bar installed. So right now I've got the low beams on. That's high beams. And with the light bar going on right now, you can see it definitely makes a difference. I'm really happy with the amount of light. Definitely broadcast more to the side so you can see deer or something coming onto the road. And it's definitely a lot brighter, crisper light. So really happy with the install. I'll show you guys little clip of what it looks like all installed tomorrow and how I ran the wiring and finish up this video. But that's where we're at. Real quick, I'll show you what it looks like with just the light bar on. So that's high beams with light bar, low beams with light bar, and that's just the light bar right there. So definitely with you know, the lights, and the addition of the light bar, fog lights, high beam, definitely worth the I think the light bar was like $25, and I showed you guys the wiring kit I got at the 99-cent store for $3.99, and I probably, you know, I just used some scrap stuff laying around as far as the bracketry and a couple dollars worth of screws, but you know, for around 30-35 bucks and a couple hours of labor, it's definitely worth it. And like I said, it's hidden and out of the way and protected from the elements being behind the grill, so it should last for a long time. So I'll show you the final product tomorrow and we'll wrap up this video. Alright, so here is the finished product. As you can see, it sits behind the grill. Plenty of clearance, out of the way, got good light coverage, and it looks pretty clean. As far as wiring goes, pretty straightforward. Put a couple of pigtails on the lights, the wires that come with the nightlight light. They don't have any pigtails, so put a couple of adapters on there, and then the wiring harness that I showed you guys. Went ahead and put the male portion of the plug on there, ran it down, and wiring just runs behind the battery here. And I actually ran it through that plug right there, goes into the firewall and inside, and then of course wires on the positive negative battery. I ran the wiring under the dash, and then I put the switch in that came with the wiring harness right there on the dash panel. I'm going to change out that switch so it matches the dash a little better. But that's the final product. Hope you guys can use the information on this. And like I said, I've looked all over YouTube and the internet, and I've not found one video on how to install a light bar behind the grill on a 02 to 05 Explorer. So hope this helps you out.